The 2024 Formula One season will be remembered as one of the most competitive and controversial seasons in recent history. Max Verstappen and Red Bull fought a fierce battle with Lando Norris and McLaren. The season ended with Verstappen and Red Bull claiming the Drivers' Championship, but the story doesn't end there. Throughout the year, questions were raised about the legality of certain components on McLaren's car, the MCL38. Although the FIA ultimately deemed McLaren's innovations to be within the rules, many, including Verstappen, felt that the team had exploited loopholes in the rulebook to gain an unfair advantage. The controversy began with McLaren's rear wing design. This component was revolutionary and gave the MCL38 a significant boost in top speed, especially on tracks like Baku, where Norris managed to defend against drivers like Charles Leclerc with surprising ease. This advantage sparked complaints from rival teams, particularly Red Bull and Ferrari. Sergio Perez and Leclerc publicly stated that McLaren's rear wing functioned like a mini DRS trick, which raised questions about its legality. Despite the outcry, the FIA allowed the rear wing to remain in use for most of the season, only banning it late in the year. Not because it was outright illegal, but because it caused too much unrest in the paddock. Neil Holdy, the team's technical director, shared how far the team had come in just 12 months. Previously, McLaren's innovations had gone unnoticed, but now rival teams were scrutinizing every detail of their car. This shift in perception highlighted McLaren's transformation into a leading innovator in the sport. The rear wing was just one part of McLaren's broader focus on aerodynamic efficiency. The team had identified weaknesses in their designs from the previous season, particularly in terms of drag and the effectiveness of their DRS. In response, they dedicated significant resources to developing a range of rear wings tailored to different downforce requirements. This effort paid off as McLaren's car became one of the fastest on the grid, capable of challenging and even surpassing Red Bull in certain races. The importance of aerodynamics in Formula One cannot be overstated. In a sport where every millisecond counts, even the smallest design improvement can make a significant difference. McLaren's innovative approach to their rear wing was a prime example of how teams push the boundaries of engineering to gain a competitive edge. By improving both straight-line speed and cornering performance, McLaren's car became a formidable competitor, capable of winning races on a variety of circuits. The controversy didn't stop at the rear wing. McLaren's front wing also came under scrutiny. Teams like Mercedes argued that the front wing flexed excessively, particularly in slower corners and over curbs. This flexibility, which seemed to give McLaren an advantage in high downforce circuits like Zandvoort and Singapore, became another point of contention. Norris's 20-second margin of victory at Singapore left Red Bull and others questioning whether McLaren had stretched the rules too far. Christian Horner, Red Bull's team principal, repeatedly called for clarity from the FIA, urging them to ensure that the regulations were enforced consistently. But the governing body's response left many unconvinced. Critics argued that the FIA didn't fully understand the complexities of cars in the ground effect era, which made it harder to evaluate innovations like McLaren's. For Verstappen, the 2024 season was especially frustrating. He openly expressed concerns about the fairness of the competition. While he stopped short of directly accusing McLaren of breaking the rules, his comments made it clear which team he was referring to. Verstappen stated that there were races where Red Bull had no chance at all, suggesting that McLaren's car gave them an insurmountable advantage. He also pointed out that no team would ever admit to using illegal parts, as it's their job to push the rules to their absolute limit. Verstappen's frustrations were compounded by Red Bull's struggles in slow-speed corners and over curbs, areas where the MCL38 excelled. Despite the controversies, it is undeniable that McLaren had a remarkable season. The team's ability to introduce upgrades without facing significant setbacks was impressive. While other teams struggled to perfect their cars, McLaren seemed to have a solution for every challenge. Their dominance on certain tracks highlighted how far they had come, but also raised concerns about how much of their success was due to clever engineering versus rule bending. For Red Bull, this was a wake-up call. Verstappen admitted that if Red Bull didn't address their car's weaknesses, he wouldn't be able to compete for the championship in 2025. He specifically mentioned issues with balance, performance over curbs and bumps, and handling in slow corners as areas that needed improvement. The season is shaping up to be one of the most competitive in Formula One history, with several teams likely to fight for both the Constructors' and Drivers' Championships. McLaren will undoubtedly be under intense scrutiny, especially given the controversies of 2024. The FIA will need to step up its efforts to ensure that all teams adhere to the rulebook, with major regulation changes coming in 2026, including the removal of DRS. 2025 will be a critical year for teams to solidify their positions before the sport enters a new era. Red Bull is already working to address their shortcomings. Verstappen has expressed confidence in his team's ability to bounce back. He believes that with the right adjustments, Red Bull can return to dominance. But the pressure is immense. Verstappen is not only competing against McLaren, but also against Ferrari and Mercedes, both of whom are making strides to close the gap. Ferrari's Charles Leclerc and Mercedes' George Russell are hungry for success, and they will be formidable opponents in the coming season. The role of the FIA cannot be understated. Their handling of the controversies in 2024 left many questioning their competence. If they fail to enforce the rules consistently in 2025, it could lead to more scandals and undermine the integrity of the sport. The governing body must find a balance between allowing teams to innovate and ensuring fair competition. Starting from a rough patch in 2023, McLaren underwent significant changes that set the stage for one of their best seasons yet in 2024. By looking at the statistics, it becomes evident how far McLaren has come in a short span of time. During the first 9 races of 2023, McLaren managed to score only 29 points. Fast forward to 2024, and the same team scored an astonishing 212 points in the first 9 races. This dramatic improvement didn't happen by chance. It was the result of strategic upgrades, a revamped technical staff, and a clear focus on achieving excellence. The turnaround for McLaren started with their decision to rebuild their team from the inside out. In 2023, they recognized the need for stability in their performance and took steps to restructure their technical department. This included hiring new experts, refining their car designs, and making consistent upgrades throughout the season. Their perseverance paid off as their performance began to improve steadily, and by the time 2024 arrived, McLaren was no longer a midfield team, but a strong contender for the championship. What made McLaren's success in 2024 even more impressive was their ability to compete with some of the best teams on the grid, such as Red Bull, Ferrari, and Mercedes. Red Bull, for instance, faced its own set of challenges during the same period. After parting ways with Sergio Perez and promoting Liam Lawson to a full-time seat, Red Bull hoped to regain its dominance. But Lawson's limited experience in Formula One, with just 11 races under his belt, meant that the team had to work even harder to maintain their position at the top. Also, Red Bull faced internal struggles, including the departure of key engineers like Adrian Newey, which added to their challenges. Max Verstappen also felt the pressure. Despite winning his 4th consecutive championship in 2024, Verstappen admitted that the balance of his car wasn't perfect. He revealed that some of the upgrades introduced during the season didn't perform as expected. At one point, he noticed issues with the car's aerodynamics, particularly in cornering and ride heights, which affected its overall performance. Red Bull had to start from scratch to address these problems, delaying their progress and giving teams like McLaren and Ferrari a chance to close the gap. Ferrari, too, emerged as a strong competitor in 2024. With drivers who consistently delivered top-notch performances, Ferrari became a formidable force on the grid. Alongside McLaren, they pushed Red Bull to the limit, creating a highly competitive environment throughout the season. The battle between these 3 teams kept fans on the edge of their seats, as each race brought new surprises and thrilling moments. While the focus has been on the top teams, it is important to remember that Formula One is a sport where surprises can happen. Smaller teams have occasionally punched above their weight, and it wouldn't be surprising to see a few unexpected performances in 2025. This unpredictability is part of what makes Formula One so exciting for fans around the world. So, what do you think about this? Comment down your thoughts right now. And while you're down there, make sure you hit that subscribe button as well.